My name's Steve Napolitano with BARRELAGED Brewing, and I'm the president of the company. I would say at the very core, it was three friends homebrewing. I like to joke with my business partner, Wes, who's our brewmaster, that I've been homebrewing longer. Certainly I'm not the best brewer of the group. I was in law school, and law school, not known for being a very fun place to spend some time. So I thought it would be kind of fun to learn a little bit about something completely different, something hands-on. Plus it was broke, and I thought, hey, I'll homebrew and save some money. We all know how that turns out in general. And so the years passed, and I did a couple more batches, and frankly, they weren't really that great. And Wes got involved, and he took it from more of like an engineer's perspective and really worked on these beers. And so that's probably 2009 through like 2011. And we started to get a little bit more serious, started to buy some better equipment. And he, at the very end, had sort of a full-on nano brewery in his garage. Brandon Buckner, our other partner, was doing some marketing work at the time, and we thought, hey, we could put all this together. I have kind of a business background, we've got kind of the technical background, kind of a marketing background. What would this look like? And that's kind of where we started as a group. Initial system is a 15-barrel Premier system. I think we can do probably 18 at full kettle. The pilot system is a 7-barrel system, and that can do them about 7 barrels. So we opened with about 180 barrels of fermentation capacity, and we're in the 600 or 700 barrel fermentation capacity right now. So
my name is Greg Suchsland, and I am the lead brewer here at BARRELAGED Brewing. I originally started as a server at a brew pub out in Orange called OG's. They no longer exist, but they did brew their own beers there, and that kind of piqued the interest of alcohol creation. Was like, oh, all you kind of really know is the main beers as a kid growing up. Your dad drank the Budweisers or the Coors, and about the extent of anything you knew. What really drove me to get into it further was I watched MASH, the TV show MASH, and I was always so fascinated that Hawkeye and Trapper had their own gin still. So I thought, well, holy smokes, alcohol creation can be done really small, like in a tent in Korea, so why can't I make alcohol at home? Looked up the fact that distilling at home is incredibly illegal, so then it went to like, well, I work at a brew pub, can I make beer at home? So found out that I could, started buying the equipment and extract brewing to all grain brewing, and bought the chest freezer, a temperature regulator to have my own little fermentation center. And then parlayed that experience and working at the brew pub to getting a job in distribution for Hangar 24, back when they had the distribution company. One random day, met with some friends here at BARRELAGED after they had opened and saw a job posting for a cellarman, and I always knew I wanted to work production, but I lived in Orange County at the time, driving to Redlands every single day for work for production out there seemed a bit tough, and I'm like, I knew it'd be kind of a drop down the totem pole to work my way up kind of thing. So I'm like, well, BARRELAGED is a great place. I like all the beers they have here. They're very inventive and creative. And if I'm going to start over somewhere new, why did I be somewhere close? And so I took a chance and applied, and they took a chance on me. And I've been here ever since, and just kind of worked my way up the ladder.
I was actually talking with my wife, who is our accountant here, and we were trying to figure out how many different vendors we have bought from, and I stopped counting at 300. So we get them from all over the place. We source all sorts of different ingredients from all sorts, literally from all over the world.
The real fun that we get is the more unique items when we go to the cocoa nibs or the cinnamons, or more so the adjunct ingredients is where I find I have a lot of fun, because there is nuance in the origins that you get them, the way that individuals roast them. That's when you can really fine tune and really dial in what you get. So we've used coffee roasters from Southern California, from across the country, of which they sourced coffee beans from all over the world, Mexico and Costa Rica and Honduras, and African origin coffee beans. Our vanilla the same way. We've used Madagascar and Tahitian. So we don't skimp on trying to source the best the best ingredients, especially for the adjuncts, but more, I mean, for everything else. I mean, let's be real here. Brewers around the world use Great Western and Weyermann because they are the best of those. They're just because they're more readily available doesn't mean they're any less good. So, but we seek to use what is the best that gives us the best flavor and the best utilization for what we choose to do for the beers that we make.
We think it's pretty important, and we back that up by spending quite a bit of money on the different ingredients. For our fundamental observation, we use Madagascar vanilla beans. We have only used Madagascar vanilla beans. When we opened, the vanilla beans were somewhere around $20 a pound. I think it was last year they were about $360 a pound. So that's a pretty big difference, and we said this beer needs this. If it ever became unfeasible to use Madagascar, I don't know what we would end up doing. We may do a different beer instead, because that beer needs that ingredient to taste that way. So I think these ingredients can take a great beer and turn it into a fantastic beer. It started very modestly. We did our first barrel-aged beer right when we were first brewing, and that was our Dark Star November. That was our very first barrel-aged project. We tried to make it a larger project. We called different barrel brokers, we called different barrel companies. Literally, we got laughed at. The phone hung up. You want 12 barrels? Ha ha ha! Click. Anyways, it started there, so we had done a very small project with that stout, and we were able to release that about 6 months after 6 to 8 months after we opened. It had been aging at that point about 10 months, and we saw the response to that. We saw that people were excited to have something here. I've been interested in that, again, since probably 2011, 2012. Big fan of Parabola with Firestone Walker. Seeing that as a bottle, I still have one of the bottles that I bought back then, unopened. I don't know if I'll ever open it, to be honest. It's just sort of, I can't believe that we're making something that people like as much. You know, it still kind of blows my mind. A lot of those projects have a story like that. It's like, hey, what if we did this? What if we tried this? What if we added this ingredient? What would it do? And it just sort of takes on a life of its own.
For me, it's a ton of fun. As the guy that gets to see them throughout every step of the process, from concept to production of, and specifically for like our barrel-aged beers, seeing what kind of product is going into barrels and then seeing when it comes out of barrels, trying to implement our ideas for what that beer gave us, and then trying to then find the proper adjuncts. I mean, the beauty of the whole thing is yes, for like fundamental, we use Madagascar because that was the flavor we wanted right then, but for other ones we've used Tahitian because that floral note is more of what we want in the beer. And so that's where a lot of the fun ultimately comes in, because we do tasting trials all the time. Look, great, we sourced 4 different brands of Tahitian vanilla because each one's going to be a little bit different. They all came from different portions of Tahiti, so we need to then pick which one is the one that gives us the flavor we're looking for specifically. Our cocoa nibs, we've gone from Ecuador to Ghana to Mexico to Madagascar. I mean, from where they're sourced, because they all give different chocolate or more earth or more this or that, and that's a lot of fun because as the position that I'm in, to be able to see it all the way through the process, it's fun to see those ideas slowly, piece by piece, realized as we find the right ingredients that make the specific beer we're actually looking to make.
I think there's not been a single brewer that I've talked to that hasn't said, I prefer the lighter stuff.
You know, it's my old coworker used to say, used to refer them as lawnmower beers. Like he wants beers that you could drink while you're out mowing the lawn. And the more I think about it, you know, you work your butt off on these barrel-aged stouts, and you have to unfortunately drink them 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 times throughout the shift to make sure they taste okay. I know it's the worst possible thing in the entire world. But you know, you play with beer all day long, and you get home, and it's not that I don't want to drink more beer, but it's like, man, I want something I don't have to think about. You know, the hops are great. I spend all my day thinking about this beer, this IPA, this stout, this and that. I want something that's brainless, something that's easy to drink, and that maybe I can have 4 or 5 of and not hate myself the next morning. So I think we're all kind of cut out of the same cloth.
Well, I think fundamental observation would probably fit into that. We knew it was going to be a decent stout. I had no idea it was going to turn into what it did. I'm really a fan of our Japanese rice lager, or HANAMACHI. I don't know if I could say that we had no idea, but you know, it was something that was going to be pretty good, and it turned into something that I reached for every single time. We just did a beer called Equivalent Dose, which was our sort of banana beer. It's really difficult when you're tasting this stuff when it's right out of the barrel. It's flat, it's uncarbonated, it doesn't have any of the adjuncts in it. You've got to imagine, you've got to put on your thinking cap and be like, okay, what's this going to taste after all this stuff? And we came together and we made these decisions, and we added the bananas, we added some of the chocolate, and I think it came together in a really incredible melding of the flavors, but it took a little bit of thinking to get there. We were at the Great American Beer Fest in 2012. We knew we were going to do a brewery. We had no idea exactly what it was going to look like, that we were going to be in this spot today, and what you'd be able to see. But we knew we wanted to do a brewery. So where do you start? You go to JBF and you start looking around, you start talking to people, getting to know the industry. And we were driving from JBF up to, I think we were going to Fort Collins, and we needed a little break. So we pull off and we go to a small brewery called Grimm Brothers. And I very rarely wear t-shirts. I wear polos, I wear the work shirts, t-shirts, I'm not a t-shirt guy. And I saw this t-shirt and I said, I don't care, I've got to have that t-shirt. The artwork was just so fantastic. So we asked them who they used as an artist, and we already had a book of, I don't know, 5 or 6 local artists that we'd been talking with. So they gave me a name of an artist, and he lived in Colorado, and I thought, okay. And then we were in San Francisco a couple months later at Speakeasy Brewing, and their art was also fantastic. And I said, who do you use? And they said the same guy's name, and I was like, boom, that's it. His name is Josh Emmerich. He is a man amongst men, a god amongst gods, like whatever. He's just a huge part of what we are, and I love working with the guy. Honestly, I don't know if we've ever turned down a collab. We're pretty bad at that. So I think there's definitely some interest in having us share some goals and some alignments. For the most part, I'm trying to do, I would prefer us not to do a stout at someone else's facility, or at least when they come here. If we, I'd rather do what they're known for, and maybe vice versa, and we do a stout at their place then. That would make more sense, I guess. At the same time, I want to know what someone's really good at, and I'm going to learn from them. For us, it's a collaborative process. And I don't just mean because it's called a collab, it's literally a back and forth. I've seen some of the chains that the brewers are doing where they're going literally like 50 emails of like, well, we should use this really hyper-technical ingredient, and the other guy will type back, no, because of the atmospheric pressure, no, we're not gonna do that, and just back and forth, and they're coming up with like some really fun ingredient choices that we wouldn't necessarily have made here, but we're getting it from their perspective.
The others are, I would say, all of our hazy IPA collabs, not because we do anything extravagant or necessarily weird, but it's such a style that has such a specific following and a specific goal in mind to really make them top notch. It's fun. It's been fun to meet all these people. And granted, I haven't necessarily been a part of every single one of these collabs, but I've been relayed messages and details from these collabs, from Other Half, notes from Trillium, from Great Notion, Weldworks. We've done so many collabs with so many high-profile hazy IPA brewers. Their tips and tricks, because everyone's kind of trying to perfect a style of beer that no one, I think, really knows which one the perfect style is. You get pretty perfect styles of hefts and lagers, and Helles lagers and fest beers and stuff like that. You can have some goal to pinpoint, but you ask gentleman A and Trillium makes the best ones. You ask B and they think Treehouse makes the best one. So you're kind of like, okay, who do we kind of follow? And it's getting his advice and his advice and his advice and kind of putting them all together into a giant mashup. So I really enjoy all of the hazy IPA collabs because everyone offers something a little bit different than what we do and what we've learned from everybody else, all in pursuit of making what would be deemed the perfect hazy IPA.
ROSWELL'S SWELL. This is one of our Berliner beers. We call them the Berliner Equation series. And we're using a lot of fruit. These are kettle soured beers, and they have been an absolute hit. We have done also a series of them on the Campy Creatures side. Campy Creatures is a game that our artist has worked on, and we got sort of the classic monsters that have been updated. And this is the ROSWELL'S SWELL named after, there was this whole controversy this summer of people marching on Roswell or whatever. So it was kind of a fun name. And the beer's got this big fruit character and a little bit of the tartness on the bite there.
Knowing that there was this great push for the Raid Area 51, we were able to dye it green. And so it comes with a very brilliant, alienish, stereotypical alienish green. And so we wanted to add to the fun of believe me, it's not like St. Patrick's Day food coloring drops in there. It's a little more scientific than that, but it comes out a really beautiful green, just with the idea of pushing the whole like Raid Area 51 for the aliens narrative. And then in turn, it's also then a really refreshing and tart tiki cocktail as a beer. So it's just a fun little play on kind of modern moment, and then a love of tiki that the whole brewery in fact has. Condition is one in a long series of sweet stouts. I think they're originally called Florida stouts because some of the breweries in Florida really got known for making this really rich, dense sweet stouts with these really adjuncty flavors. So we took some inspiration from those and tried to make our own, but with the specific goal of flavors that the public generally already know. So in this instance, we've tried ice creams and candy bars and other things like that. So Mint Condition was was inspired by the ice cream, the mint chocolate chip ice cream. And we wanted to go for a sweet stout that tasted like melted ice cream, I guess is the short of it there. And so we used mint and nibs and all kinds of fun ingredients, and we're able to kind of recreate what literally tastes like a 12% bowl of melted mint chocolate chip ice cream, which shucks, am I right? Like, it could be so much worse.
HANAMACHI is our Japanese rice lager. We've made it since almost the beginning. And it's one of the first lagers that we had really spent some time on and doing. It's one that our artist Josh Emmerich has come up with. We've got Eve sort of incognito in Japan, and so the Hanamachi is where the geishas would actually congregate in feudal Japan. And it was great because last year I was actually able to go see one of the original Hanamachi, and there's 4 of them left in the city of Kyoto. And it was just so amazing to be able to go and see, and we actually could see some of the geisha walking around and see that history there. And so like I say, it's a Japanese rice lager. It's about 5%, just a really easy drinking beer, a lot of fun, and something that we, again, could make a lot of. Thermal Intake is the next release in our Hoptometron series. So this is number 3 or 4, I can't remember. 3, this is number 3. Like I said, we're really far behind on that. We should be, finished with this robot years ago. We just have too much fun trying new things. So we settled on one, so each part of the series is a part of the robot. So this is his thermal intake, it's his exhaust in-out port kind of in the back. The other one is the actuator, it's the claw. The other one is his brain, it's ocularity, and really kind of a fun one. So it's a double IPA series, the whole series is double IPAs, and we're rotating different hops and different combinations to sort of experiment with how those would taste.
This one we had some fun because our first 2 in the series, double actuator, which is the arm, was going more for that maltier but tropical hop. Ocularity, which was the second in the line, was the drier and danker. So it's kind of with West Coast IPAs, you're like, well, you either get like tropical, malty, or dank and dry, and we've used all the 4 options already in the first 2 beers. So it was about creating that the third version was fun. It was about creating that blend of kind of all of them, like, well, what do we like from the ocularity, what do we like from the double actuator, and trying to make one that's still different but encompasses that double IPA aspect that we have already done in the first 3.
We have Broken Blender, and Broken Blender is sort of our, let's take a beer that we've released in the Stasis series and just push it up to 11. Now what happens? And we've added way more pineapple, we've added way more coconut to a beer that we had released. It was a draft release just to see what would happen, would people appreciate it? It costs a lot of money and it takes a lot of time to do that. Is this something that people would like? And the response has just been tremendous. So the base beer was very good. Astronautica Exotica was almost like a tiki stasis beer, if you can imagine that. When they first pitched the concept, I was like, I don't know about this. It turned out fantastic, and this beer is even more over the top. So we're going to be looking forward to doing more of this, whether they're draft one-offs or if they're really small releases on the stasis side. And then the final beer we'll talk about is Fundamental Observation, sort of the granddaddy of them all for us. I remember sitting there and trying to decide what we were going to do with this beer that we had made. We knew it was going to be a good beer. We weren't quite sure what it was going to turn out to be. And we ended up using these Madagascar vanilla beans, and they're all hand processed. There is nothing in there but Madagascar vanilla beans. And it has been sort of a lightning rod for us. I mean, it's really a fun beer to make, it's a fun beer to drink, and it's a fun beer to talk with people as they buy it. So
it is what I deem to be our flagship. A lot of breweries have a lot of flagships, blondes or pales or IPAs, and certainly we do have those with Recursion, 714, Hanamachi. But so far as I'm concerned, Fundamental Observation is our flagship beer. It is the one that the world over knows us for, and it is a continuous labor of love. Because of the continued growth with that beer, it is a large undertaking. Every year we do it is a large undertaking. There's a lot of vanilla that gets processed, a lot of vanilla that gets processed, a lot of barrels to try. You're over multiple days because you can't subject one person to all that barrel tasting in one day. It is multiple days of debarreling, multiple days of bottling, multiple days of testing and this and back and forth. And so for us on the production side, it's a lot of fun for us because it is not necessarily a difficult beer to brew, not a difficult beer to cellar or to barrel or to process. And on the contrary, it's one of the easier ones we do. But because it's one of the easier ones we do, it's the ones that we absolutely cannot make any mistakes on. And so, because there's nothing else to cover up anything we may do wrong. And so for us, it is a large labor of love because almost everything else has to stop, because if there's nothing else we do right in this brewery at this point in time of the year, it has to absolutely be this beer. And so it gets everyone's brain power and sweat and tears and hurt hands and tired feet to be able to make sure that we nail this beer, because this is the one thing we cannot do wrong. And so we love doing it because it is truly an effort of everyone and all the work that goes into it to accomplish that final goal.
That's not really hard. Is beer important?
I think beer is important only if you think that community is important. So that's what beer to me is. It's community, especially on the craft beer. Being able to sit down and connect over a beer, talk about how it was made, why you enjoy it. I think that's really important. Beer is the oldest alcoholic beverage. It's brought people together for 6,000 years. Why is today any different? So that's my thought on it.
Absolutely it is. I have the great privilege of coming from a nice German beer drinking descent. And I know from my father, well, my father was young when he moved, but from my grandfather and all his, my great aunts and uncles, it's not about the beer. As silly as it sounds, you have a brewery, you go to a brewery to drink beer, and yet it's not really about the beer. It's about the people, the friends that you make. It's about the experience you share, the good times, the bad times. You have one when it's times are good to celebrate. You have one when times are tough to kind of, help you kind of get over that hump again. You come to the brewery to make friends, to meet people, to meet your friends, to celebrate, to feel sorrow. Everything in the world can be done at this small of a spot. It's not quite a religion, but it almost kind of is at the same time. It really does bring so many people together, so many feelings, so many goods, so many bads. The amount of healing that can happen at a brewery, the amount of celebrating that can be done at a brewery. Because it isn't about the beer. It's about the people that are here. The people that work hard to make it, the people that work hard to serve it, the people that get to come to enjoy it. Everyone all together is what makes this. It's not just someone working production. It's not just me. It's everything, because without our customers as well, we have no beer to sell. And so for me, it's important because it's a culmination of everyone's efforts put together into a glass. And if you can't support that, then I don't know what's wrong with you at that point in time. And I blow it all right at the end.